Printer's devil.
Devil's printer
It
set.
flooded back then.
Yeah.
And the owner.
Yeah.
The owner of the.
Morning, Howard.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Felix.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Felix, good morning. Good morning. It is 9:04. This is Wednesday. First meeting of the Town of Brookhaven's Local Development Corporation. Following directors are present. Mr. Callahan, Hallie, Mr. Rose, Kite, Prada, Mr. Braun, and by Zoom, Mr. Gucci. Quorum is present. We have circulated the minutes of July 17th. Motion to accept those minutes.
So move.
Second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Lori?
Okay, included in your packages, the LDC's operating results, budget versus actual as of July 31st. At this point, we have no activity in the revenue section. Our expenses are a little bit below budget. Our interest is a little bit above budget, but overall, our net earnings for this period are in a deficit, but it's less than we had forecasted as of the end of July 31st. Are there any questions? Also, I want to read our statement about timely payments. All payroll taxes have been paid and the related withholdings in accordance with federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been filed in a timely fashion. Just quickly, I do want to mention that we did get notification from Hanover. We don't have accounts at Hanover for the LDC, but just for your information, they are dropping the rate less than 0.5%. So I suspect if rates change much, we might hear some activity in the LDC. And also we're working on the budget and we'll either be presenting the first draft round in September. It's due for filing with Paris at and it's due for filing in Paris on November 1st. Any questions?
Need a motion to accept the report?
So moved. Sorry, Felix.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So I know that your agenda says that we are going to have an application. We thought we were going to have an application, but as the conversation continued, they were sort of back and forth and it ended up that their application was not quite ready yet. I expect that we will bring this back to you next month, we think. This is actually a project that you have seen before. It's Port Jefferson Commons. It is a CDC conifer partnership, and their plan is to build adjacent to the project that we currently have in Upper Port Jefferson. The project we have currently is adjacent to the train station. This will be just over from that. This will be a combination of workforce and affordable housing. And we're working through the details, but it might come both through the LDC and through the IDA for different types of benefits from each agency. So thought we were ready, but we're not ready. So hopefully we'll be back.
But it would be a rush to the finish line because they need to close this by year end for tax credit reasons and some other,
Yes.
other things.
They've had some changes in personnel among some of the worker bees who are responsible for doing some of the paperwork stuff. I don't know whether that is related to it, but I know that's been a problem for CDC, some of CDL's
At
relationships.
CDC
Yeah.
or that's
The changes have been a conifer, but it
Oh,
has
okay.
interrupted some of the
Okay.
stuff that we're doing with them.
Okay, so, and to piggyback off what Lori just said, it'll be nice to have a project in the LDC. So we are working on it and I hope to have this back to you next month.
we need the income and LDC. Any other business to be brought before the LDC? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Well, now it is now 9:08, and we will open the meeting of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency's Governance Committee. The following board members are present: Mr. Callahan, Pally, Rose, Scheit, Trotter, Mr. Braun by Zoom, Mr. Grucci. A quorum is present. Similarly, to the LDC, our minutes of our meeting of July 17th have been sent to everyone. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
Motion.
Second. Questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So, similar to the last few meetings of our governance committee, we have three sort of general, topics that we have been discussing. And I sent around, a week or two ago, an overview of what we've been discussing, and I kind of pared it down to, what I think is what I'm hearing from the board as far as where we want to be with things. Obviously, there's a discussion to be had, but I figured I would just try to get to the point so that we could maybe, move it along. I will remind everybody that as far as our UTEP is concerned, we're waiting to make any significant changes and to actually do the public hearing that's required until the governor either signs or doesn't sign the legislation that would require that we make changes to our UTEP. So that one, even if we pass everything else, that's gonna be on hold just at least until the end of until the end of the year. But so to go through mortgage recording tax exemption, last we discussed, we talked about not giving mortgage recording tax exemptions to projects unless they fall into one of the following categories, I guess, which are 100% affordable housing projects or any housing project that's building an STP. Now, I will point out to you that this Portchester Commons project that I just mentioned is 50, I think it's 53 units, and one of them is for the super. 11 of them are at 50% of affordable, and the remaining 41 are at 90%. So it's predominantly a workforce project, not an affordable, true affordable project. So in this case, if we were to stick with this, that project would not be eligible for the mortgage recording tax exemption. Now, this might be a moot point if they go through the LDC. There's a couple of things that might make it, but it's an example of something that I just want to bring to your attention, that if we stay with this, and I think it's fine too, but I just want to point out to you that a project like that, they would pay the mortgage recording tax
Just
exemption.
sort of one other thing,
What?
transit oriented development.
It's got a whole bunch,
Yeah.
it's a lighted, there's a lot of things that it falls into, but as far as this set of criteria, it would not, that we would make them pay the mortgage recording tax exemption.
Lisa, because of my feeble memory, could you say what the initials STP stand for?
Sorry, I apologize for putting that in like that. That's sewage treatment plant.
Cool.
Yeah,
Certainly wanna know.
you know what? That's a good point, and I apologize. I try to.
just gonna ask that.
I was channeling you, Fred.
So if they were to build a sewage treatment plant, we want to encourage people to do that, so a little,
Sure. Thank you.
Lisa, can I ask a question to you? What, just for the record, what is workforce, for, like, how's that defined?
Okay, so, there's different definitions. Different places have different definitions of it, but I think the state's definition, and counselors, correct me if I'm mistaken, is 120
Of
of AMI. Okay, so it basically, in order for someone to be eligible to live in a workforce unit, and the town has one definition we're working through, which is the next, I think, or someplace on our list of things, our definition of workforce, but the state's definition, I believe, is 100 if you make 120% of AMI or less, then you're eligible to live in a workforce development
And AMI is what?
area median income. I'm sorry, I apologize. Area median income. So, in this case, they're saying you have to have 90, for you to be eligible to live there, your income has to be 90% of the area median income. And I'll give you a couple of examples.
So it's $100,000, they have to make 90,000.
Right, so the AMI in the Nassau-Suffolk region, the area median income in the Nassau-Suffolk region for 2024, and I'll just do a family of one, just for numbers, is $109,350. So if you were a family of one and you were going to move into a workforce or a community that had restrictions on it, if it's 120%, you have to make $130,200 or less in order to be eligible to live in there. And this one that's 90, I don't have 90 listed, but it's someplace between 87 and 109. It's probably about, $94,000. So what you do is you say, okay, I'm interested in living in here, and they look, you have to provide a whole bunch of documentation, and they confirm that in fact your salary is at or below, let's say 90% of the area median income for this region.
It's a lot higher than I think.
The area median
This
income,
is a really expensive place to live.
Yeah.
That I know,
yeah,
but still,
yeah. So 109
That's a
350
recognition of.
is the
costs.
median income for Nassau Suffolk.
So we follow the state guidelines?
Well,
And
currently,
how does
right
that
now,
differ from the town?
I think we're in between.
okay, so right now we're at 120, but we've been having conversations, and our last conversation was that we would move our workforce to 80% of the AMI, and the town recently made changes. Oops, second, and the town is currently at 65% of the AMI is what they're considering workforce.
For a certain number of units.
Yeah, yes, oh, yeah.
Right. It's not the whole, for a certain number of units have to be at that
Oh,
level.
Right.
That's the point, right?
Right, so
Right.
there's a couple of different things, like we're saying that we want our market rate projects, we're requiring that they have a percentage workforce and a percentage affordable. The town does the same thing, but they're defining affordable at 50% of the AMI and workforce at 65%. So in theory, you can have an affordable project that comes to both the town and comes to the town, the state, and and Brookhaven IDA, and they could say, well, we need to have this many at this level, this many at this level, this many at this level.
It's confusing.
Well, realistically though, if the town has 50% of their affordable is defined at 50%, that would count, even if we set ours at 65, I gotta look what we were talking about. 65% for affordable, the 50% units would qualify for our requirement. It's not like they have to have each, once they reach the lowest one, that covers the other ones.
Mhm.
So,
So we shouldn't be mirroring their numbers?
well, it's a little bit of a separate conversation. We're gonna get there in a minute. And at the last meeting, I think you guys agreed on these numbers. So I don't really want to rehash it too
Listen.
much, but go ahead, Felix.
What's the downside of mirroring the town's figures?
Okay, so just to keep it a little bit organized, can we stay on mortgage reporting tax for a little bit and then go over to our workforce and affordable numbers?
Sure.
Okay, so I will come back to that question, both of your questions. So basically what we're saying is that if somebody comes to us and they want to not pay their mortgage reporting tax, then they are going to have a project that is defined as 100% affordable housing, or anybody who's building a sewage treatment plant. So basically 100% affordable project, and counselors, correct me if I'm misstating this, but at least I think in our UTEP as it stands now, they have to have either 4% tax credits or 9% tax credits. There has to be a regulatory agreement with either the state or the federal government to be defined as true affordable housing.
Well, that's the only way you can build it because you need the subsidy.
Yes, yes. But,
Right.
but as far as when we say affordable, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about a market rate project that puts 10%
Right.
affordable, or that's different. Those projects will pay the mortgage reporting tax exemption as it's laid out here.
Unless
They
they're
build a
building an SDP,
sewage treatment plant,
right,
yes.
right. Which we want.
Lisa,
Don't
one
know.
more, a question on this. Do we offer the mortgage recording tax relief to those that are building healthcare institutions like nursing homes and senior citizen complexes? Are they eligible for the mortgage tax reduction?
Okay, so currently, yes, and just keep in mind, everybody, it's a partial mortgage reporting tax exemption. That's the state law. So that's just, I'm not gonna, we don't have to go too deep into that, but just squirrel it away. So all of our projects pay some of the mortgage reporting tax, but as we have it laid out in our current, the plan that we're working through, senior housing, which is basically market rate housing with a caveat for, I would say, probably less destructive, quieter, with people with better, more income coming in for the most part. Those projects would pay the mortgage reporting tax, and assisted living would pay the full mortgage reporting tax, as we've sort of outlined it here.
What was the reasoning behind editing them out of the recording tax? Since they do provide a significant benefit for the community.
Well, I mean, let's take them to separate pieces. One, the senior housing is effectively market rate housing, so we considered it sort of in that pool as market rate. The assisted livings, honestly, we had a flurry of assisted livings. There was a point, if you look back at our agendas, every meeting, we had another assisted living, and then I think we saturated because the spigot just turned off. We just didn't have another project. And so, we haven't had any, and I wonder, right now, the assisted livings that we've done, we didn't require that they have 10% affordable and 10% workforce. And maybe workforce isn't, appropriate there, but we didn't require that they had affordable units. So those are all market rate. Facilities. Yeah, so that's why we left those out, because they are basically market rate facilities.
Felix, the other thing, just to be clear, as I understand it, why only a partial mortgage recording tax exemption, because they still have to pay 30 basis points for the MTA.
Yes,
So we can
Understood.
only
But-
give 75 basis
Right
points.
now, if someone came into town and wanted to build an assisted living, they have to pay full boat on the mortgage recording tax.
well, if we pass this policy, yes. Right now, no, we would give them a partial mortgage reporting tax
would.
exemption. Yeah, as it stands today, but as soon as we pass this, if we pass it in the form that I've presented, then no, they would not get the exemption.
Just to follow up on your comment earlier about we don't see them anymore. Do you think that if we offered that mortgage recording tax, we would see more of those in the town?
No,
I
because-
believe they serve a purpose and, for someone who's dealing with a person who eventually will need an assisted living.
There's a
I can
developers-
appreciate the value of these types of units.
I think Lisa's correct. The market's been saturated. If it opens up again, we'll see the developers come in here.
Yeah.
And Felix, right now, we are offering a full mortgage recording tax exemption to those types of projects, and we have not seen any in a few years now.
I think we've seen the balloon.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
didn't we do
For a
one on,
while.
Middle Country Road in Quorum? Is that,
But we did one on Middle Country Road in
then the one in
Quorum.
Port Jeff,
We
across from
did-
Uncle G's?
That's been open 2 years probably.
Wait, yep.
Uncle
We
G's, we
did
took the
one-
floor of that one. right?
We
Yeah.
did one on, the North Service Road of the LIE, right over
Yeah,
here
that's-
on
yeah,
83.
Yeah.
We did one in Mount Sinai. We did one in ABR.
Yeah,
Well, they're
Mhm.
fighting.
What do you-
yeah.
Right.
Lake Grove.
Oh, I thought that's the one that he said across from Uncle Giuseppe's.
Yeah.
Well, I meant in Port Jeff Station.
Yeah, yep, that
That's the
one.
tour we did.
We did one, at the ABR complex on, William Floyd and the north
Oh,
of
yeah.
the LIE.
Yeah.
So we have done a bunch
a
of
lot.
them. And honestly, Felix, if that was gonna be a motivating factor, I think they'd be coming in right now. I don't think that it plays a big role in them not coming in.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to keep going, we said that we would give the mortgage recording tax exemption to core manufacturers that we're defining as NAICS codes 31 through 33. Any adaptive reuse projects, and just to remind everybody that that refers to a project that's buying an existing building that's underutilized or blighted. Yeah, yeah.
Would that include a transformation of a shopping center into other uses?
I would,
Should.
I would, say- I mean, are they knocking the whole shopping center
No,
down?
no,
Yeah, no, then that, I think that would qualify, yeah.
okay,
If it's blighted, underutilized, that kind of thing.
fine, okay. Okay,
And then any project, that the total cost of the project is $10 million or less, we would give them the partial mortgage recording tax exemption. So that's kind of where we left off with our discussion on the mortgage recording tax exemption. Do you guys think that that's a good list? Should we, I mean, obviously we'd have to present it to the IDA board and then vote on it, but
do we need a public hearing on
Yeah.
this piece?
no,
Well, if these are for policies, not UTEPs, we don't.
correct.
Sure.
I don't think we should put this in our UTEP.
No, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm just.
No, we wouldn't.
Just
have to
our
have-
policy.
Just a
It's
policy,
policy.
so,
Okay, okay, fine.
I think it's good.
Yep, I think that's fine.
okay.
I'm
so-
good.
Listen, if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, we can always change it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
correct.
that's the beauty of not having a public.
Right,
you know.
it's not like
That's
it's
the
in
reason.
stone.
Yeah, and if
If
we
it
put it in
doesn't
the
work, it
UTEP
doesn't work.
and then we have to adjust it, it's a very heavy
Well,
load.
we might get a core manufacturing thing that we all decide it's worth doing, so we'll,
Well,
you know,
core
we have some,
manufacturers are going to get
Right.
the exemption,
right? Which I think we should encourage.
yeah. Which, that's what we tried to think about, what it was that we wanted to encourage.
Right.
And we wanted to, support, so,
Yeah.
okay, so, all right, good, I'm gonna take this off our agenda.
Wow.
Good.
Whoa.
We'll present it to the full board and you guys can vote.
What a smile that was.
It took a lot of work.
That's progress, huh?
Things that make me
Mean a lot.
smile. Okay, so that brings it to the next item is, spec warehouses, and what I'm kind of hearing through the group is that there's a suggestion that we extend the prohibition on speculative projects. And I put industrial in this list, but it probably should be warehouse. Like, it could be industrial warehouse. We could say we just don't really want to do speculative projects. Maybe we don't want to do office, but maybe we do want to do speculative projects if it's going to be an adaptive reuse. So, we kind of have to think through the details of this a little bit, but right now, our prohibition is on speculative warehouse projects over 100,000 square feet. And what I actually suggest is that we drop that to 75,000 square feet. But kind of maybe extend it and see where we are after a period of time, because I do know that So we have some projects, and just in the town of Brookhaven, if we go further out of the town of Brookhaven, there's certainly some more buildings to be aware of, but we have some projects in the town that are, remain vacant.
Quite a number,
Yes.
Yeah.
based on the study and.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've approved construction of, another project, that was a while back that hasn't started yet, but assuming that comes online, that's going to be a lot more space available. And, there are some other projects that decided to move ahead, without coming through us that are making progress. So, my understanding is that there's the potential to have quite a bit, regardless of our moratorium, there's the potential for quite a bit of spec warehouse space. And maybe we should wait and see if it gets absorbed before we incentivize anybody else.
I mean, I think the study has made it, kind of clear where we are in the marketplace right now, both in Brookhaven, but also, the expanded region,
There's some
and-
other independent studies that are going on now that we're not a part of directly.
Okay.
That I think will put an asterisk on
Yeah.
this even further than it is now.
Again,
we
if
have-
the,
will we
the
get-
economy and the market changes, we can come back and revisit it,
Current
but right now
moratorium,
it
by the
is
way,
what,
expires December 31st, correct?
Yeah.
So,
We don't have to do anything right now.
Fred, will we get access to those, studies at some?
Yes. I have two concerns. And I expressed one of them to you in writing. First concern is, it's difficult to me to penalize one person with a project because of the inability of others not to get to do stupid things. Okay? Yes, we all agree there are warehouses out there that are empty. We're not arguing the point. Those people made financial decisions, which may or may not succeed in the end result, but clearly have not coalesced at the moment with tenants. Somebody else coming in who has a tenant and is over whatever the limit is, should not be penalized because somebody else did a bad thing.
They wouldn't be penalized. It's only spec. So if you
Only
come.
spec.
No, that's my question is how do we define spec?
No tenants, right?
Because the question is gonna be, okay, how many tenants are you gonna need? And that's to some degree gonna depend on how big you build it in that regard. So that's my question is, how do we make sure that somebody with one tenant, two, three, whatever the number is?
It's not a
Is not-
number, is it, Mitch?
Well,
Is it
whatever,
a
whatever,
number
well,
or is it a square footage?
well, that's, at the
Percent.
moment, we don't have anything.
Okay.
Okay, that was my concern, because at the moment, the way this is written, it would not allow somebody else to come in with a tenant or partial tenants and get benefits, either full or partial, because others have not done what they want to do. So that's my first question.
That's not my read of this.
Are you saying, Mitch, that this doesn't define spec?
Well, it doesn't define spec.
And
Okay.
that's the problem?
Well,
That
I
if we
think-
can define,
Right, I think
Spec?
we need to, I think we need to tell a developer or developers, okay. We understand you want to build this but to get our benefit, you're gonna have to come up with X. Whatever X happens to be, that way they know at the beginning
Yeah.
where we're gonna go.
So Mitch, the way I.
That was that was my concern.
The way I read this is
Right.
that if you, if developer walks in this afternoon and says, we have this project and we're building whatever, we have no idea who's gonna rent it. I'm gonna say, well, we have a moratorium and that's not something we're interested in.
Right.
If a developer comes in and says, we're gonna build this project and, this business is going to rent it, I'm gonna say, what percentage are they taking? And then I'm gonna say, I need to speak to my board about that. Because we don't have an exact situation, and listen, if it's 90,000 square feet, I'm gonna say that's not within what our current definition of our moratorium is, and I'm gonna accept it. if they tell me that they've got an end user for 10% of a 500,000 square foot building, I think you guys are gonna go, but I would say, that's not my decision. I will bring it to the board and get their temperature on
and
it.
I-
You
and I
think this
agree.
gives us
So
flexibility
you're not
more,
scaring
is
away
what
anybody.
you're-
They come to us, they
Right.
come to
I
us.
think
You're
we need
looking
to-
at it restrictive, and you're looking at
Right.
it more,
Right. Well, and I'm also,
Unless it's, you have nobody lined up
Right.
and if you're just building a building and let's see who comes, build it and they will come,
Yeah.
that hasn't
which
proven
I'm
effective.
not arguing the point. I just think we need to give somebody a little more guidance in what we're gonna do, rather than just say to them, well, we'll figure it out when you come in that regard. I think we need to give them something,
Well,
whether it's-
tenants, they
What
gotta
tenant?
come with tenants.
right, no, I understand,
That's-
but whether those tenants are 25%, I'm just making up a number. Of the total square footage, or 50% or 70, whatever the number is, I think we just need to give them some idea at the
you don't think we
beginning.
have more flexibility this way?
I think flexibility is
Well,
good.
both for the developer and for the
The
IDA.
problem with flexibility is
It's-
financing may be more difficult in
But-
that regard,
but
because they won't know it. If we said to them, I'm just making an example.
Yeah, yeah.
If we said to them, you come in at 50%, picking a number, you're in.
Yeah.
You get your benefits, okay? Then when they go out to do financing, they can show the entity financing it. We meet the 50% requirement, therefore we can get Brookhaven IDA requirements. If we don't have a number, they don't know that at the beginning until the board decides at some point that 50 is okay, but 45 may not be okay, or
Right,
that's
right.
that's my concern. I'd much rather have some guidance there. So yes, we still have some flexibility, but I'd rather have something for them to
defined.
see.
But Mitch,
I'm
50,
willing to be convinced otherwise. That's my always concern, is I like.
we
to
may
give
not be
guidance.
comfortable with establishing a specific flat rate, 50%. 50% of a 500,000 square foot building is a lot more to fill
Right,
than 50% of a 100,000 square
Right.
foot building. So I don't know that,
You
we can-
also
I
might
can't go for
say,
that.
we're so excited about their tenant that they have at 50%, that even though we put our threshold at 75%,
Right.
this one we really want to incentivize. So I felt like it gave us a little bit, and I wouldn't ask them to put in their application. I would say, give me a letter. Let me bring it to the board and I'll
Mhm.
see what my board, I'll take their temperature.
Like I said, that's my
And
concern.
their financing,
Good.
they're going through our process
Right.
before they even get to their financing. So
I think, you know, what Lisa's saying makes sense. I understand what you're saying, but having heard
You know, I
both
love you.
I get
sides,
it.
you know, and I mean, a developer walking in here with no tenants would be nuts. And, you know, I mean,
So happens
you know,
now.
and right, looking at what's out there, why would you, you know,
Right, we meet
go
once
into a
month, so if
saturated
someone
market
gives you an
right now.
application-
The other question I have is what, you know,
I mean,
and as we've talked about and heard, you know, it may take the question is, how long do we give them to have tenants in that regard? That was the issue I talked to you about, phase in.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we can talk about that from a legal
And-
standpoint.
Right, I
Yeah.
get the point, but you know, the question is, do we, you know, if they wanna build it, listen, if they wanna build it no matter what, they could build it.
Mhm.
as long as they
Right
get
now,
town
they don't
approval.
need it.
Yeah,
They just don't get it, we don't need us.
Right.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That's their decision to
Right.
make. The question is, okay, if they're gonna build it, do we give them? Do we eliminate the incentives completely, cause they're gonna do it no matter what? Or do we say to them, we'll give you 2 years, 3 years to come up with some percentage and go from there?
are you saying that if they come to us and they say they have a end user for whatever percentage to fill the rest of it?
Yeah.
So we've done that on
Yeah.
a case by case basis. If you look at some of the we didn't do spec for a very long time, and then we had a couple of vacant buildings
Right,
that we had people say, we're buying this, we're gonna breathe fresh life into it, and we said to them, okay, and Felix, you pushed this issue very hard when we first got these, and your point was very well taken. You said, okay, so it's a spec building, office building, let's set up thresholds. They have to have, 25% at this point, 50% filled at this point. So I think we could do it on a case by case. If they come in and they say they've got a tenant that's taking 75% of the building, we might be less concerned about the remaining 25%.
Right.
But if they said we have a tenant and you guys decide to support it, that's taking 25%, we might give them deadlines to fill the rest of it and go from there. And if they didn't meet those deadlines, you have the option to recapture the benefits that were given.
Right.
And you brought up about.
Could I
planning
add,
shopping
could I add
centers.
my thoughts to the conversation? The intent that I've always had was to prevent the empty spaces. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of square feet we currently have already approved. Some of it's online, some of it isn't. But if someone is coming to the IDA and it's our intent not to have these multi-100,000 square foot buildings laying dormant in the town of Brookhaven, then they need to come to us with with their application, a lease showing us that they have that. I don't want to take the word of, and it's not because I don't believe them, but because life situations change. And Fred, you and I have experienced this on another board where we approved the acquisition of a building that had a huge amount of square feet to it, based on the fact that we were told that we were going to have tenants, and the tenants never materialized, and we were stuck with this albatross. Now, I don't want to see that same scenario happen here in the town. I mean, we've already got a number of these online, and I don't know, Lisa, if you know off the top of your head how many square feet we've already approved, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot with that, but there's a lot out there, and I think all of us would agree to that. To put more out there on spec and to put more out there on the word of a developer that he's going to have tenants. Like I said, I don't discard the fact that he's speaking to us honestly, but without that document showing that there isn't a tenant, there isn't a tenant.
I agree with you, Felix. What I started to say was, we talked about blighted shopping centers before and helping those as part of that. Well, that's what we're trying to avoid, that whole era of having those empty shopping centers or these empty buildings, and we're stuck with them. Again, we're giving an incentive to a project that we're trying to encourage. And at this point, we're not trying to encourage it, we're trying to fill these other buildings. So I think that based on listening to the conversation back and forth, I think, Lisa, I do agree with you. I don't want to get stuck with this.
Devil's in the details. I mean, if somebody comes in with 50% square footage with a tenant, we say, fine. We give them the whole benefit package. They've got 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, to rent the rest of it. 3 years goes by, they didn't rent it. Do we blow back? Do we adjust the pilot? And what if in year 4, they find a tenant for the remaining 50%? How do we handle the whole pilot during that entire process?
That's always the question with all the projects, because it might not be who they're the eventual subtenant, it might be the job creation numbers. So you guys, that's a question for every single project.
So looking at an individual project, you'll get some of those answers. Some more questions.
We should, and I think Mitch has also raised the question is, and this is a really difficult one. Supposing you put the full assessed tax in place now, and then you reduce it under a pilot as they get tenants. Well, depending on how long it takes to get tenants, the taxing jurisdictions have already gotten their full tax base. And they get used to getting that full tax. And now you're reducing it because they've got their tenants and under a pilot.
It's very complicated.
I agree. How about if we
But
just?
Fred, that concept works well for the revenue side for the municipalities. It doesn't do anything for us in the town to have these vacant buildings laying dormant in various spots of the town.
I think it's
To me,
problematic.
it's more important not to have these vacant buildings than to worry about the taxing revenue for the individual taxing entities.
I don't disagree.
I agree.
But I think Felix said actually hurts the taxing jurisdictions Because if they get used to getting the full taxation, and then the next year, they fill the entire building, and
Yeah,
it goes, it
you
drops.
certainly
back
don't
down.
wanna take, you certainly don't wanna take revenue away from the school.
And I asked my.
That's suicidal.
Could it be done in a different manner? Let's assume for the moment it is a 3-year construction period. For the first 3 years, they would be taxed. We do a pilot and
Land
tax
only.
them at land only as we would do now.
Yep.
Okay,
And the town.
and the
does.
town, right, and the
Yeah.
town would, and then in year 4. There's either one of two numbers. There's a number for a pilot if they lease a certain percentage, 75% or whatever the number is. But if they don't, it's now full taxation going forward. So it basically gives the entity 3 years to get to a certain number. In that way, we have not taken money back from the municipality because they never got it in the first place. They may get it in year 4. Or they may get a phase in
But-
in year 4.
I totally hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It doesn't address Felix's concern that then we end up with.
No, I,
Another-
We're trying to approach this the wrong direction. If the intent of this moratorium was to prevent vacant buildings, then going at it from a tax standpoint isn't gonna resolve that problem. They have to come to us from day one, when they come to the IDA, they have to come telling us how many square feet they're gonna build and how many tenants they have to fill it. Now, if we don't want to establish a number, whether that's 75%, 80%, 30%, whatever the number may be, if we don't want to establish that, and we want to deal with it on a case-by-case basis, then the intent has to prevail, which is, we don't want these buildings laying dormant. The taxing structure of how we do that is not the important part. The important part is to prevent it from becoming vacant. So I'm not so strongly supportive of trying to fix this by giving the developer an opportunity to build this, and then we wait for them to fill it. And if they don't fill it, they made a bad business decision, and we've got another 500,000 square feet of empty space.
Yeah, the residents of the town should not be stuck with looking at vacant buildings and
I think we all
I
agree to
think,
that.
yeah, so. I think we'd beat the dead
And then
horse.
we can give an incentive to turn it all into housing.
I've talked about that.
Yeah,
Because the building is already there, but I mean,
there you
I'm
go.
not arguing, right, but that would be a.
Bring the sewer in now.
Lisa, if this,
Windows, who wants windows?
Lisa?
Now that's an opportunity.
based upon a presentation, I think has a lot of merit to it. If someone came to the IDA and said, listen, I want to put an application in to build 500,000 square feet of wholesale space, what would you, on behalf of the IDA, say to them in order for them to want to go forward?
Do you have an end user?
Yes, I do.
And what percentage of your 500,000 square foot building is this end user going to utilize?
About 40%.
I would say, I don't know what my board's feeling would be on that, so if you wouldn't mind, put together a letter, outline the entire project, make sure you tell us who the end user is, how long they're intending to be in the facility, what they do. Give us the parameters of your project, send me a letter, I'll present it to the board at our next board meeting, and I will take their temperature on whether this is something that they'd like to see an application come in or not.
And I like that approach. The only thing I would like to add to it, if the board is amenable to it, is show us a lease for what you're indicating you have under square footage.
100%. I would definitely require that we end up with a lease proving, because if you have a lease for 6 months, which I know isn't very realistic, that's not gonna do us very good. We need a lease that shows that their intention is to be in the space for an extended period of time. And so
Correct.
I would definitely, ask council to review the lease and make sure that it doesn't have, a caveat that, you know, they could get out. I mean, there's gotta be some caveats for the business to be able to get out if things aren't progressing the way they were agreed to. But something that gives us security that they're going to be in the building for a significant period of time.
I understand that, and, you know, those outs in the contract is between the developer and the end user. And, you know, if they're acceptable, they're acceptable in if they're acceptable in a contract to both parties, they ought to be acceptable to us as well. So, I mean, the way you just outlined it would be something I could support.
I think we ought to have a minimum percentage because it's not fair to Lisa and her staff
Yeah.
or the board to have each one on a case by case basis. Because then we'll look back 3 years from now or 10 years from now, whoever's sitting at this table and try to figure out what the thinking was at the time.
Mhm.
So whether it's 50%,
Well, but do we want to do percentage or do we want to do square footage? Because 50% of 100,000 square foot building is very different than 50% of a 500,000 square foot building.
agreed,
So maybe we say, you know, you have to have an end user who's going to use a minimum
about-
of,
like a sliding scale.
well, no, but like maybe a sliding scale. If it's 100,000 square foot
I
building.
mean, do
we're
we really
okay.
think there's gonna be an abundance of, people walking in the door here that we have to
So-
deal with that right now?
Empty
or-
buildings.
There's still some stuff
So the expressway,
kicking
right?
around.
On the
I,
There wa-
Frank,
Yeah.
I do.
north
think so.
side, there's those two
Okay.
big buildings.
No,
But if
That's
you're looking for a number, I'll offer 75% of the square footage needs to be under lease.
And do you like the idea of 75%? Because if we're talking about 100,000 square foot building, 75, you're giving me easy math right now. 75,000, 75% is 75,000 square feet. But if we're talking about a 500,000 square foot building, math isn't as easy, but it's not, it's
375.
375. So are you,
The reason why I picked 75% is just, it's in my own head that that's probably sufficient enough revenue coming in to keep the building afloat. You know, if you say 50% and they get 50%, that may not be enough to cover the nut. So you would want to get the percentage to the level where the revenue that's coming in from what we've approved is sufficient enough to carry the building so it doesn't become dormant.
I could see us having a project that's a 100,000 square foot building that said at 75%, it actually causes us problems because then we have to find a small user for that 25%. Our building is gonna be built in a way that it's set to split either with 250,000 square foot users or one user for the entire building. We're not set up for a 25% user. So I don't mean to throw monkey wrenches, but I can see that being. a
But we're
problem.
approving this.
You're bringing up good points and I think you're making sense.
Yes, but we're approving it before they start construction, but we're approving it probably after they've already started the planning process, which will delineate where the doors are gonna be and the bays are gonna be, and that's gonna impact it. If somebody comes in and says to me, I see you, Howard, hold on one second. If somebody comes in and says to me, we're building a 500,000 square foot building and we have a 10% end user. I'm gonna say, I don't really
You know
think
the
that's what my
answer.
board
Yeah,
wants,
yeah.
so,
You feel the pulse, you know,
yeah.
you know what we wanna do, and, you know.
And let's not throw stones anywhere, but a greater coordination between us and the planning department.
I mean, not necessarily, only if we said that we.
How long have we been waiting? Well,
Only if we said that it had to be a certain percentage.
hold your breath.
If we
Need a
work
seat at the gate.
with each project on a case by case
Still waiting.
basis, then
But if they knew our requirements, somebody came in to do X. And they knew they were coming to us, here's why for us.
Lisa,
Yeah.
for consideration, so one of the concerns with your policies is that it's always measured against an arbitrary and capricious standard, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just say that, well, you know, on a case by case basis, we will see. So it's nice to have a percentage, but another way to do this, you can also say that you have a moratorium that can be overridden by, say, an intake acceptance. based on considering the following criteria. So you can just generally set criteria, the current amount of empty space, the size of, how many signed leases do they come in with? In other words, you can set up criteria that still preserves flexibility, but it's not just, well, the board or staff will decide. So that's maybe another way to go at it without
Yep.
putting in percentages, just to delineate.
So maybe
Criteria
you
that
guys
we will look at it.
draft something up for
Yeah.
us.
And I know, I think that's an excellent idea, because that gives us a roadmap, but not
Mhm.
a
Percentage,
set
right.
exact it has to be. Because I do think there, a little bit of movement is gonna, I think we're gonna hit roadblocks if we set it at a percentage. Howard, what did you want to add?
I was just gonna comment and ask whether or not you'd want to consider requiring the developer to demonstrate to you that with the one tenant they have or the two tenants they have, that they can in fact service the debt so that that they're not underwater from day one.
Yeah, that's
Another
another,
criteria.
One of your criteria.
yeah. So,
I think that makes a lot of sense. You want to give people some guidance.
Mhm.
You don't want to, I'm not eliminating flexibility, but you want to give them something to understand. These are the factors we're gonna take into account when making our decision, so we don't just. pull
Well,
it
I
out of
think what
left
Andrew
air.
said kind of balances out both
Right.
of
I think that
what you
makes-
deal with.
I think
yeah.
that makes a lot of
And the
sense.
project should be able to put together a pro forma financial for
Right.
that, for that
Right.
particular.
If they
project.
can't,
They can't, they
yeah,
can't.
yeah, out the door.
so. Right, as it stands right now, our moratorium goes to the end of this year. So why don't we work on putting together a list of possible
Right.
considerations? I will.
That's
phrase it
fine, yeah.
better.
Mhm.
And I can bring that back,
Almost
at the next
September,
meeting
back to
or-
school.
Fine.
you know, before the end of the year, certainly, but, okay, we will work on that.
Could I just ask Annette a quick question? Annette, I know that we're an autonomous board from the town board, but is there an opinion on these types of buildings coming from the town?
Yes, I agree with you, with everything that's been said here, that they don't want empty buildings. Littered throughout the town. It's not good for the town.
No,
Don't look good.
But I would assume that in some cases. The town's hands are tied. If somebody wanted to build one on land zoned
Yeah, they
for
are.
this purpose, you can't, I don't wanna say can't stop them. It's much more difficult,
You can,
You
if it's
can.
zoned
If it's
correctly,
zoned for
they
that
can build
purpose,
it.
regardless of whether we give them financial incentive. or
But
not,
a
they
town
build it.
with a
They
bunch
build it.
of empty used warehouses does not make a good appearance.
No, we agree.
which is
And
where we
when
are.
we do our reports
Yeah.
to our,
Bonding agency.
bonding agencies, they look at that. They say, is this a thriving town?
Yeah,
Mhm.
How much, let me phrase it this way then. How much land, do we have any idea what percentage of the vacant land is currently zoned for warehouse as of right?
But it would be all the L1 and we could measure that for you if you want. I mean, the planning would have that off the top of
But-
their head.
but-
I don't know it.
But there is some, there's no question about that.
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
there's
there.
plenty.
In fact,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot.
yeah,
So,
Town of
so,
Brookhaven is pretty big.
right,
Yeah.
and L1 seems to be one of the things that happen when nothing else happens.
I don't know, there's a lot.
I hear what you're saying, and you're correct. If the property is zoned correctly and they have all the measurements and they can build the building, they can do it without us. But
Right,
if I'm gonna go without any benefits whatsoever, because what we offer is significant for the developer, I'm gonna make sure I got a tenant in that building that's gonna carry my debt load.
right, you would think, yes.
well, I mean, they're more, they should be more motivated than we are to have an engine.
Correct.
Right.
Their money at stake.
Yeah,
Gotta pay your bills at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, so.
I think
um,
we've exhausted that. What do you think, Fred?
Okay, the last item, and this I am suggesting needs to be a change to our uniform tax exemption policy is, a couple of changes at our last meeting. We agreed that we would change our definition of, affordable to 65 of the area, 65% of the median income. So that 10% of our projects would, 10% of the units in a housing project would have to have residents that fell at or below 65% of the area median income. And there's a next step to this. The next step is that then the rent is set at 30% of, no more than 30% of their income. So there's a rule of thumb that when you look, when you try to figure out, can I rent this apartment? You have to, or can I buy this house? The mortgage or the rent should be 30% or less of your monthly income. And that's how you know that you're not gonna be house poor, you're gonna be able to keep your apartment and still be able to eat and, I would say go to the movies occasionally, but I went the other day and I was shocked at how much it cost.
Especially the popcorn and goodies.
I don't know.
Probably
what
more
I
than the
thought.
movie,
It
right?
was insane.
And my
But,
wife bought the kids.
yeah, I took my kids.
Get to
That's
refinance the house.
So that was the first thing that we said, is that we would change our affordable definition to at or below 65% of the AMI. We also discussed changing our workforce definition so that 10% of the units would be available to people whose annual income is at or below 80% of the AMI. And the last piece, and listen, in our UTEP, there's some other changes. There's a couple of grammatical things. There's places where a phrase was put in twice. There's cleanup work like that certainly needs to be done.
Sure.
But I think the big picture items, the last piece is that I think we should change our senior housing so that it follows the same pilot parameters and requirements as our market rate housing. Because right now, we're incentivizing senior housing, giving them a longer pilot with fewer caveats than we do for our market rate. So I'm suggesting that
What's the history on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what our logic was then, but that is, maybe there was not enough senior housing at a period of time, but now there certainly has been a push in senior housing, and I feel like why don't our senior housing projects should have the same requirements as market rate? They're basically market rate. Yeah.
Even more.
I agree.
Yeah, so,
Seniors need more.
Still on that
Yeah.
page.
We do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
So,
CDLI was very happy.
Or will be one.
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
First set of developments.
So those are
That's a
the three
community
main
development
changes that I'm
line project.
proposing
We were
for our uniform
delighted
tax
to have
exemption
your-
policy. I am certainly open to other suggestions. And when we do our public hearing, you know that we will get other suggestions.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What do you guys think about those three ideas?
Yes.
You have to have
Get down,
you have to have a public hearing for the UTEP, right?
Yeah, but not till we're
Not
ready.
till
Oh,
the end of
okay,
the
all right.
So,
Yeah.
so the intent is to do everything at once.
Yes.
Yes,
All the
Okay.
changes together.
yes.
That makes sense.
So she's
Including if
holding
the
these in
law
abeyance
passes.
until,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, good. All right.
we did it. I mean, you did it.
I think this was a very successful meeting. I appreciate everything. We will, obviously, you guys are gonna have to approve these things in the IDA meeting, but thank you. Does anybody have anything else that they want?
You made a strategic decision to put the spec warehouses issue ahead of the UTEP issues. And it worked out very well.
It wasn't strategic. That's just how it.
Yeah, right, Lisa. Good work.
Business with the governance committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor? Aye. For the record is 10:02. We'll now move into the meeting of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency. It's Wednesday, August 1st. It is now 10:03. All board members are present. Mr. Callahan, Mr. Rose, Skype, product, on them by Zoom. Mr. Grucci, the quorum is present. Minutes of our meeting of July 17th have been forwarded to everyone for your review. A motion to accept,
So move.
second,
Second.
questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Gloria, turn it over to you.
Okay, included in your packages is the profit and loss budget versus actual for the IDA for the 7 months ended July 31st. In the revenue section, I want to mention typically July is one of the slower months, but we had a lot of transactions, not closings per se, but we had a couple of tax extensions, closing extensions, change of ownerships, and 2 applications came in. One was a new project and one was a subtenant. So revenue is ahead of budget year to date. As far as the expenses, nothing to specifically point out, but I will be in a moment reviewing our insurance quotes because our policies all expire August 12th, so we have the new policies in place. But again, overall expenses are under budget. And again, our investment earnings are ahead of budget, but we did get notification from Hanover, which has some of our cash that they are decreasing our rate on the cash. So we're starting to hear a little movement, not by much. It's less than 0.5%.
From what to what?
It's currently now at 5, so they're gonna pull it down to 4.95. So that's the operating statement for the month of July.
And that's before the open market committee meets to decide.
Yeah,
Hmm.
in September, and I think in September they're
That's
gonna
the-
pull it
This
down.
is a prediction.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
They're
everything's
meeting
like
Friday,
set.
right? I think
It's
they're
been a
meeting
nice-
Friday.
I thought they weren't.
It's been a
meeting
nice
until-
run for us.
Yes, it has.
I showed him in another.
Um,
Please.
I did wanna
Yeah,
mention
but it
that
was a
I
couple
meant,
weeks away.
I
well,
thought so
the
too.
brokers
No, I'm
had
curious,
reached out to us
because I
and we
looked
got
up
our new
For something
policy.
else yesterday.
Just in general, overall, the policies really increased about 3%, except for our cyber policy now has gone up to, no surprise, $16,000.
Yeah.
Mm.
Big-
4 or
big
5 years ago when we started the cyber policy,
Peanuts.
$2,000.
Yeah.
Whenever you
Yeah.
have one problem.
These
So
guys
we're
are trying to
all
suck your money out like you wouldn't believe.
It's well worth
getting
it.
bad.
It is.
Yeah.
They know
And
that
there's
you care.
no,
Some people can't even give it,
yeah, and there's no,
some entities.
yeah, I believe that, and there's no
100%.
really other people out there. Chubb is like the only one that's doing it, so that policy went up again another 25%. The only other thing is our package policy went up about 15%, but that's because of the new equipment. So year to year, it makes sense that we have more items covered. And that's, as far as insurance goes, that's where we're at.
Right.
I did want to also mention that we're starting the budgeting process. The budget's due to the state on November 1st, so we're gonna be presenting a draft probably at the September meeting. Lastly, I just want to read the timely payment language. All payroll taxes and related withholdings have been paid in accordance with federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been followed in a timely fashion.
Lori, I think you ought to distribute that so that we can all say it with you in chorus.
In unison?
Yes.
I like that.
No, that-
I like it
she
like
has
the
to
leaves.
say-
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm answering.
That's something, that's
Please,
something
no,
I
no
suggested
coverage
years
will be
ago.
down,
for
Walter,
another
please, with his voice.
organization. Felix and I are.
Right? You
both
guys have to say
involved.
that. Next time we have any,
I know you're
yeah,
doing
what a
it.
vote.
Yes.
This is the information, Friday at 7
Or
o'clock.
In unison?
I'll
No.
talk to you on Monday.
No.
His message didn't say that.
Any questions on any of the items?
No, I'm sorry. I screwed up.
Hearing none. Need a motion to accept Lori's report.
So
So
move.
moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So I probably should have said this before Lori started, but we made a change to our agenda and packets that Frank requested. So I just want to draw everyone's attention to it. If you notice on the agenda, some of the items have a letter next to them. And then if you notice on the items, in the packet, some of the items have, like, for instance, if you look at the IDA, you'll see 2A, 7/17/24 IDA draft
Mhm.
minutes. So if you notice, the minutes are number 2A. We did that because Frank said that it was, he's struggling through trying to figure out what
Connected.
documents have to do with what. I didn't put a letter next to items that there's no document, so you don't have to search for those. And an item like, for instance, 3A, there's 2 items in there, so you'll see it, 2 different items listed with 3A. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, like, for instance, I'm sorry, not 3A, 5A had 2 items.
Mm.
So for instance, Lori's budget report is 3A, so you can see right there, 3A.
Makes it easier.
So I just wanted to make sure everybody caught my logic with that, and we're gonna continue to do that. We didn't do it with the LDC or the governance because there was like 2 documents, which seemed unnecessary, but we certainly can going forward.
Thank
It
you,
helps a
Frank.
lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good suggestion. Okay, so, on to the next items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda under applications, like I said in the LDC, is not really ready for you. So although it was in your packet, you can disregard it. Hopefully we will have that to you at the next meeting. The next item is an application for Hawkins Avenue Development, RHP2 subtenant, Lucharitos Station Yard, Inc. Hawkins Avenue, just to remind everybody, is one of the phases of the Ronk Hub
Hub.
project. And Lucharitos is, and the next 3 subtenant applications are all for the Hawkins Avenue Development Ronk Hub project. So Lucharitos is a restaurant and bar. They're interested in 1,500 square feet. They have other locations in Melville, Center Riches, Aquabog, Greenport, and Mattituck, which will remain. So this is, they're adding, they have a 12+ year lease. They're going to have 22 FTEs. The salaries are going to range from 55,000 to 140,000 per year, and hourly employees at $20 per year. And it'll also result in 30 construction jobs to get the facility, up and ready for them. This is, I'm asking you guys to accept the application, and although we take it out of order a little bit, also pass the resolution if it's acceptable to
So
anybody.
move. Second,
Second.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, again, in the Ronk Hub facility, this is for Toast Coffee 7 LLC. Again, this is a restaurant and bar, and they are keeping their locations in Port Jeff Station and Patchogue. They are looking at 5,000 square feet. It's a 15+ year lease. They're going to add 45 FTEs. The salaries are somewhere between 45,000 and 100,000 a year, 30 FTE construction jobs. And again, we're accepting the application and passing the resolution.
Motion,
So move.
second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. And the last application is again for Ronk Hub, Noble Experiment LLC, doing business as Artemis. And this is a bar / speakeasy. I don't know what the distinction between a bar and a speakeasy is, but that's what.
Darker and a speakeasy.
Darker. You have to know the special knock to get in. So it's a bar, I guess. Just over 2,000 square feet. It's a 16-year lease, approximately a 16-year lease. It's 3 full-time and 8 hourly, and the salaries are 40,000 to 70,000 a year. It's going to result in 10 full-time equivalent construction jobs, and again, accept the application and pass the resolution.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
I
carried.
think speakeasy sounds better than a bar.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah,
It's just the,
different.
It's more,
Marketing.
Yeah, it's all marketing, they're right.
yeah, exactly. So,
gives it a historical flavor.
Yes.
yes. So the next item on the agenda is a resolution for United Meat Products Incorporated. I think I mentioned this to you guys a few meetings ago, but there are 2 letters in your packet. And just by way of background, we closed on this project in 2019 with a 10-year pilot, which was proposed to start in the 2019-2020 year. This project is a Asian food manufacturer and distribution facility. The expectation when we closed with them in 2019, and it was an existing building, was that they would create 7 jobs in year 1 and 16 jobs in year 2. And, you know, beyond that. The letter explains that they have had significant issues, preventing them to actually get into the building and use the building. And I can confirm a number of those issues. The principal has been in touch with us over the years, outlining things that have been out of his control that have gone wrong.
This is a classic example of if it can go wrong, it will.
Yeah, they really have had a lot of unforeseen circumstances. Having said all of that, we have what we think is a solution. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit unorthodox, but I think that it will work. So they basically have received 5 years of the pilot where they did not create the jobs that they were supposed to. What we're suggesting is that we give them the remaining 5 years of the pilot, you know, as the pilot is set, with the expectation that they are going to give us 5 FTEs this year, 7 the following year, and 16 for 2026 and beyond. And after the 5 years of the pilot, they will go to full taxation, but our agreements will still be in effect. And basically what the agreements say is that we can recapture if they don't make their job creation or they don't fulfill their side of it, they can recapture what we gave them in those
In the first 12
early,
years.
well, the first 10 years really,
Okay.
but the first 5 years, especially, but the full 10 years where they are getting a pilot, we can recapture that even though they will be paying full taxation. So that's kind of what we came up with, in an effort to try and help this project get up and running and, still get the job creation that we were originally promised.
Would our legal advisors describe this in legal terms as holding their feet to the fire?
Well, it's Howard's project, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we discussed. Howard, is that the phrasing we use? That's what I recall.
I think so.
Yeah. So, you know, the other side of this is, you guys could say, we're recapturing 100% but my take on it was that a lot of these things were outside of their control, and that they really have communicated very well and attempted to do all the things that they wanted to. They're more upset about not being in the building than we are. So this seemed like a middle ground solution. It is a little bit more work in the office because we will be sending them pilots equivalent to full taxation in the last years of the agreement. But I think it gives them the opportunity to get up and running and thriving.
You feel we should give him the opportunity from him?
I do.
Okay, all right, that's fine, okay,
Fine.
yeah. I mean, for us all in the streets.
Good,
So moved.
good compromise.
Here
Yeah.
a second.
And that,
Second,
obviously, it's gonna,
Very good.
Anne Marie said first.
Resolution on the table. Any further
yeah,
questions?
get it going.
Give him a chance.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good carry.
That's the bottom line.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is DNF Allegria South. This is a project that I think we brought at the last meeting that you guys approved this project.
Going on a long time, right?
No.
This is a relatively new one. This is to remind everybody, a proposed 100% affordable project. Across the street from the current 100% affordable DNF project in Belport. North of Montauk Highway, we have one that's up and running, and now they're proposing a second one. The reason that I'm bringing this back to you is because they have come to us, I think, Frank, you might recall this because you asked this question, or you pointed this out. At the current plan that they have right now, there's gonna be a bank in there. And we talked about that there really is, there isn't a lot of access to banking opportunities in that area. So they're planning on putting a bank in there. They subsequently came back and told Andrew that their intention is to put a supermarket adjacent to it. it's, Fred and I looked on the map, there really are very limited options
Oh, there's
for,
nothing.
banks, and there's very limited options for a real supermarket.
No, there isn't.
There's nothing. There's a couple,
Stop
little-
and Shop is the
markets,
closest, but
yeah.
that's it,
yeah,
basically, or in Patchogue.
yes, that's
So
exactly.
there's nothing in the immediate, far
Yeah.
from it.
So, so they came back and they said, would we consider supporting a supermarket? Now, there's a couple of, hurdles with that concept. The first is, the prohibition against retail.
Against retail,
Supermarket is
yep.
pretty, clearly retail.
Yep.
But there are caveats to that prohibition, and one of them is, if it's not,
Blighted.
well, if it's blighted, there's a bunch of caveats, but this project would, check those boxes actually in a couple of different ways.
Mhm.
We can legally support it. So that was the first thing that Andrew and I
Even if it was
discussed it.
standalone, but
Mhm.
also if you look at it as
Yes.
a
Yes,
mixed
in one
use,
context.
it would be less than 1/3 of far less than 1/3 of the overall.
And I think it's a credit union. That page.
It is,
if I'm not
yep.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's, no, that's
yeah,
needed in the
Yeah.
area.
So that was the first hurdle, is legally, could we do it? And the answer is yes. The next question that I said, well, what about the insurance? We haven't really supported, we've carved out all the retail in our projects because the insurance was always problematic. And we met with Joanne, and she felt confident that the insurance requirements would not be problematic for these projects. And she also outlined some ways that we can adjust our insurance so that the project, we're covered, but a smaller retail establishment can come in. She did give us some things. She said, you don't want just, you want to make sure that you don't have something that's potentially or has a lot of insurance claims, or
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
a deli is probably fine. A gym, you have more opportunity for people getting hurt. So she said, just think through those things. It's not just a blanket statement. There is some give and take, but she said a supermarket and a bank, she said, I think that they'll be fine. And she also said, since they typically are larger chains, she didn't think that the insurance would be a problem. So that was the second hurdle. The third hurdle is this something that this board wants to support? Do you want to do when we historically have not really done retail? Do you want to support a project for a supermarket, and a bank in this project? So that's where we got to.
This
No.
sounds like a very clever idea, because the communities that need affordable housing look over the broad swath of them in the city and out here and so forth. They are historically almost entirely don't have access to supermarket style pricing. They tend to be serviced by bodegas and smaller food purveyors, and whose prices are higher than what supermarkets can afford to charge because
No,
of the
there's-
volume. And the service for banking, the same thing. Those communities tend to be serviced by paycheck advance operations
And this,
rather than.
I think it also goes along with, I'm sorry,
That's
I think it also goes along with what the town is trying to do in the North Belport community in that corridor. And fits very nicely for both the North Belport community and the surrounding community coming together, to support that area with a supermarket
I was
and
just gonna
basic
say,
services,
it fits with the land use plan the town did.
Ah.
right?
One of the findings was that this is basically a food desert.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, yeah, I don't think you could say, well, is this something the board wants to do without looking at that bigger picture?
Mhm.
Yes.
You might not want to build a supermarket in another community, but
Mhm.
here,
Here it's necessary.
and with the other projects you have,
The last time there was
it's
a
an integral piece.
Last time there was a supermarket in the North Belport area, I was a young child.
It was a
And it
Boax.
was, no, well, there was, but, on Station Road where the equipment, that project that was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
that was a supermarket at one time.
Really?
That became the magnet place?
No,
No,
Oh.
it was the cement
we had a problem with it.
company, we had to terminate it.
Okay.
Remember that?
that was a supermarket, and that was in the heart of North Belport at that time.
But remember reading also that he's
It
gonna
was
build
the
a
one
source.
they cleaned up.
Right on Station Road and,
But isn't he gonna build a sewage treatment plant there too with capacity to add other people into it?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
He's checking all the boxes.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is-
there you go. You got one.
Do we know what type of supermarket they want to put in?
I didn't
We
hear-
don't. Danny's standing by, we may have more information on that, if you guys.
Yeah.
Want me to
want
let Jen in?
Yeah, bring, please.
to batch him in.
Who's on there?
Danny.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's counsel
Yeah.
for the project.
It is what Moscow men do all the time. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Ah.
Hi,
Mr.
Dan.
Regan.
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Okay, how's that?
Good morning, Dan.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning, Dan.
Morning,
Question
Dan.
that was just posed, do you know if the DNF Allegria South project, if they know what supermarket they're hoping to get in that area?
I know they're dealing with a particular operator. I don't know, as I sit here right now, who that is, but they are talking to somebody who, because this is kind of a, it's not like a Stop and Shop, a huge shopping center. It'd be more of a, I don't want to say boutique, but it's a, I don't think it's gonna be a major brand, but it is a, reputable supermarket operator that they have been talking about. The configuration of the shopping center, the supermarket is still not set either, because there's a potential that they're going to be able to get a little more land. They're working with the county and with the town and, trying to determine what the ultimate configuration of the property is going to be. So there's a possibility it can be a bigger store, which we would come back to. Hopefully we're going to know that in the next, before your next meeting. And, we'll give you an update on the actual final configuration of the building. But, to Annette's point, this is something that the town and the county and everyone is very much trying to address the shortage of, food and banking services in that area. There's a lot of fast food in the area, but there's no real supermarket. So there's a tremendous need for that. And, it's complementary to the housing project that would be built there and to some of the other projects in the area. So.
Absolutely.
There is a particular operator, but I don't know the name of the person, and it's not like a Stop and Shop type name.
Dan, do we know how many square footage, how many square feet that they want to build?
There's a lot of,
Yeah, right now it's about 10,000 square feet, but there's a potential it could double to 20,000 square feet, and it depends on the land acquisition situation, which is in flux at this moment, but is going to be resolved, we understand, hopefully in the next week or so. So there's a potential for up to 20,000 square feet. Right now, the plan would be 10,000 square feet. I think the bigger, the better, from everyone's perspective, on the town's perspective. These are operations that would need to be subsidized, meaning both from the IDA and the state. We have an application along with the LIHTC credits to the state for the housing, where there's also an application to help subsidize these commercial uses, because left to the marketplace, nobody really would build commercial uses in this location. So, the rents would not be able to, basically, service the debt and equity that's required to build the facilities. So there have to be these different subsidies. So, that's why we would be asking the IDA to participate from a real estate tax perspective and sales tax perspective, but then we also have an application to the state, which we're optimistic about, to get subsidy on the commercial component as well as the housing.
yeah, there are many good independent operators, right now.
There's a whole bunch. of
Yeah,
little guy.
so they're not all Stop and Shops, but they are very good reputable independents that are out there now.
Right, and there's some smaller, Aldi and,
Yeah, but there's Gala, there's,
Whole
Lidl.
yeah, but there's either, I want to say an IGA type
IGA,
of,
like
supermarkets that, service communities very well. There's a new one going in Shirley.
Who's the one that was in Belport for years?
That was an IGA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
You mean
big.
Trotter Brothers?
No, not Trotter Brothers. My dad used to be in the supermarket. So I still follow the industry.
Did you have any other questions for Dan?
I think,
No, bring on the supermarket.
Frank said it's good for the,
What do you need
good
from
for the
us?
community and.
I need, I don't think we need a resolution.
Yeah, I think it's just a discussion item.
Yeah.
They would amend the application because the current application only has the bank component in it. And the idea is that, you know, this would be a mixed use project, but presumably different pilot schedules for the housing. Banking.
You've heard the consensus of the group.
Yes,
we have.
yes, yes. Thank you, everybody. So we will proceed with that. And that actually brings us to our next item, which Dan happens to also be counsel for. So that's the Scalamander Cove project.
That's the one I thought that's been around. for a while.
Yes, that one. has.
Yeah.
Just to remind everybody, this is a 96-unit residential rental project in Middle Island. And to remind everybody, because we passed the resolution and application expiration policy, this is an example of a project that is getting close to their resolution expiring and is coming back to us to keep everything moving ahead. And so what the letter outlines is that they're requesting a 6-month application acceptance resolution extension, which takes them to February 27th of 2025. They're still working out the sewage treatment plan, STP details. It's funny when I don't know if we say that in most of the meetings, but now that I've defined it, I feel like I keep saying it, but that's still being worked out. He has an application into SWEP, which is the Stormwater Pollution Protection Plan, I think is what it stands for. That application is into the town and that's being worked on. So he feels like, and Dan, tell me if you disagree with this, but it seems like he's getting to the, getting everything together, but he needs just a little bit more time.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. I mean, it was years ago that we first came before this board, and that's because, you know, with these projects, they need the idea to go forward. And so we usually come to the idea very early in the process, but this has been quite the process. It's very complicated to get development done anywhere on Long Island, but, you know, with the sewage issues, et cetera, it's just taken a lot of time and a lot of effort. I think it's still, you know, it's very viable. Last time Sam Glass was the principal here, came before this board. I shouldn't say last time, first time. Someone asked what his timing was, and he said, I just want to get this project done before I kick off. And here we are, how many years later? He's still going strong, but we got to get this thing done. But we do need an extension.
Dan, is he building his own sewage treatment plant? Is he tapping into the one that Concern has on the other side of the road?
That's the plan, is to tap in, but that's difficult to negotiate a resolution. But I believe he's just about there.
So you think this extension will be enough time to get those things resolved, Dan?
The client feels that that's the case, yes. I really don't know, but because I'm not on the front end of that negotiation, but he says that that's what he needs.
I would
Extend it to February of 2025.
I would ask for a motion.
Okay.
And he is for February 27th. Oh, I guess that is the last day of February. Isn't it?
Yes.
That's, yeah.
So just a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Questions, further questions of Dan? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you, everybody.
We are chugging right along. The next item on the agenda is office artwork. So I think that you guys
So when
know
do you
this.
want our contributions, Lisa? Or
Here's the nice little smiley
Yeah,
faces with
Have an
the-
art taste.
Annette does great doodles. I don't know. If you she's a great doodler. I can always tell when it's Annette scrap paper. So I think if you look around, you'll see that we got some
Kind of a plain Jane off.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit barren. So we have been working with a company to come up with some ideas, and we have a few things that we've kind of settled on. One that we're planning on doing in the conference room is a map of Long Island with Brookhaven blown up. So
Mhm.
you'd see it in Long Island, but Brookhaven, and then the option to put pins for all of our projects. So we have that idea. We've been thinking about a light box project for the entryway. And in order to really do that, we would need some pictures of our project, so that involves a professional photographer to take some photos. And then once we have those photos, some of them in the light box, and then some of them as prints around the office. And so those items come to about $25,000. And then we also realized that we should probably put like our logo on the wall somewhere, so, like a bigger
Mhm. Yeah,
print of our,
this is who we are.
Yeah.
of our logo.
Yeah.
So I don't have that, we weren't able to get that quote, in time to talk to you guys about it, but, I just was.
Have we
hoping-
agreed on keeping the same logo and all that? Because I know there was a conversation a while ago.
Well, I mean, we have talked
Not
about.
that today's
over
the day to
years,
talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
changing our logo, having a DBA instead of Town of Brookhaven IDA or Industrial Development Agency, which is a little bit,
Wordy?
thank you. And sometimes IDA causes some confusion in the community because they say, how are you doing this? You're industrial only, but it's our name, you know.
Yep.
You know, there's different components to different things, but, that is a good point, because if we're thinking about, if we want to pursue that, to make that change, the logo, you know, our name would be our name, but our DBA, those are things that we probably would want to do prior to doing a big logo on the wall. So,
Project also got started after
yes.
Amy, Lisa and I visited RXR's headquarters. I guess that's Melville, and to see what they have done, it's really magnificent. And a year ago at least, we looked at a number of the ideas around the state of their DBAs. They've all got wonderful DBAs. And by the way, whatever we do here, it's transportable. So,
With the exception of part of the map of Long Island. that would-
but most of it, if we decided at some point that it was time to leave these wonderful premises, that we could take a look.
I like your idea, Frank, of taking another look at our logo. Just the logo kind of looks really 20th
Yeah.
century, right?
Yeah, I think we need a full discussion. We need somebody to talk to in more, you know, that does marketing and
Yeah.
logos.
So,
So we
Um,
could vote on the first piece and then
Well,
come
yeah.
back on the second piece.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Start doodling.
So,
Lisa,
Maybe you could talk to
the
an agent.
artwork that you were referring to, the map of Long Island with the Brookhaven enlarged with perhaps or pins in there for our projects and the light box for the office. Who's gonna get the benefit of that investment? Is it just for internal staff? Or are we trying to educate the public on something?
I think it's
the office.
Yeah.
probably, it's a multi piece of it. We would certainly, probably reap the greatest benefits of it. You know, it's nice to have a
Right.
warm environment, and I think that will, make it a little warmer in here. Although it's not crazy cold right now, but, it usually is.
I think it's when you have clients come in, right?
But also-
Clients and
Kind of defines what we're doing just by walking in the door though, a
Part
little
of
bit
the
more.
reason why we put in a new carpet and improved the surroundings was because we have businesses come in here and we looked a little bit schlumpy.
Yeah.
So I think that helps to professionalize our offices. But I also do think if somebody just came in, it would be nice for them to be able to have an idea of what we do. It wouldn't just be, you know, random pictures. There would be,
projects, all projects.
there are projects. There's a
Right,
logic
and
behind
I'm
that.
sure there's key projects that you'd want to feature and a variety of kinds.
Top
of
golf would look
businesses to
right
show.
nice up there.
Yeah.
Top golf,
Yeah,
that's one of our projects. That'd be a nice picture.
No offense to any particular way of earning a living, but Brookhaven is fairly far out on Long Island, and we don't want
Used to be, I'm
potential.
not so sure anymore.
We don't want potential clients to think of us as a bunch of potato farmers who don't
Right.
really know which end is up.
Although we like those potato farms.
We love
Wish they went
potatoes.
around more,
Yes.
unless they're making vodka and then.
Yeah.
He keeps in there, Frank.
So if I understand it, Lisa, the intent here is not only to improve the quality of the office, which ultimately will have a positive effect on staff, and that's a good thing. But it's also available for potential clients that may be coming into our office to see the breadth and scope of who our IDA is and how we can benefit them. Am I correct in
Yes,
assuming that?
yes, definitely.
That's the, yep.
And also, although our website is lovely, some of our pictures on our website are used a bunch of times. It would be
Mhm.
nice if we had
Yeah.
these professional photographs. We could incorporate them into our website as well and give our website a little bit of a refresh, which,
And we may want to get in touch with some of our companies because they take their own photographs for promotional purposes. And hey, if they've got some that they think really work for promoting their own businesses, why not take advantage of that?
Yeah,
It's not
and-
gonna be a big number, but
and
hey.
a number of the photographs that are on our website currently, we didn't take,
Mhm.
Yeah.
we asked and
Mhm.
they shared, so, and you can tell which ones those are. But so we'll
I think
get
that's
some
good.
names on marketing companies to look at our,
Logo.
logo
Mhm.
and name.
But,
Yep.
And we'll
something,
refresh the
you know,
list
maybe
of
that better reflects what we
DBA.
do as
Yeah.
opposed to industrial part of
Yeah,
what.
and I'll
think
send
that's
around the DBAs that we played with, last time we
Yeah.
did this.
I think we need help,
I think I do too.
yeah.
Yep.
Uh, But I'll do it just to, those conversation, get you guys thinking, get you
Yeah.
in the mode. And in the interim, with the caveat that obviously we wouldn't be doing the oversized logo until we know what our logo is gonna be.
We should
Could
give
we have
a
a resolution?
resolution for the artwork, right?
Yes.
I thought we did once before.
Nope, I shouldn't say no, but the last one we did, I'm pretty sure was for chairs and some more furniture for the office, because,
Maybe it was just a discussion without a number at the time.
yeah.
Could be.
We need to get, these chairs are, getting a little bit rough and they're a little bit clunky for the space. Especially since we've been meeting out here, and I don't think that this comes to a surprise that this, is this was a leftover. But until we, get some furniture over here, we just left this here, so it wasn't a big wide open space.
Mhm.
So we have a couple of things that we still need to buy to finish the furniture purchases. And I think that was the last thing that you guys did, would give us, some,
So you want a resolution for the artwork?
yes, please.
Yep.
You want a number?
25.
She said 25.
Or-
25 was what the quotes that came in so far
Mhm.
for the items, not including the logo.
So you wanna say up to 25 and then if you need
25,
to
up
come
to
back,
30.
Let's go to 30.
30,
Up to 30.
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
case.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
So move.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a breakfast event that, we've been working on. I think we mentioned this at our last meeting that, Amy, Fred and I met with, folks over at Stony Brook, and we met with their, LIMEP, which is the Long Island Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And they really do, great things for businesses. So what we talked to them about is putting together an event where we have them come in and present and invite all of our IDA, all of our businesses. And well, we're gonna reach out to ones, even if they've already terminated, thank you. And see if they want to participate, because they do, just from their quick overview, they help here on Long Island with lean practitioners, they have lean practitioner manufacturing expertise. They do AI in manufacturing, they do carbon footprint reduction, and they do defense industrial base. That's just on Long Island, but they have a statewide network, and Anne Marie can speak to this also, that if a company on Long Island comes into them and says, I need help with supply chain, for instance, one of the other MEPs across the state has expertise in supply chain, so they can get them in touch. And there's grant funding, there's all kinds of support. So I'm fairly certain that our businesses are not aware of this being
We
offered.
do a wonderful job at Stony Brook of hiding our light under a bushel, and this is yet another example of that. The background here in 90 seconds is the federal manufacturing extension partnership program was started in the Department of Commerce in the 1980s, when the Japanese automakers were beating the pants off us in selling cheaper cars. The MEP program's been around ever since. There are different ways that states can participate. The way that New York decided to participate was to have a state MEP that is run out of the Empire State Development, and then to have affiliates in each of the 10 economic development regions that the state of New York in its wisdom has identified. And Nassau-Suffolk is one of those 10 regions. There has been a competition. LIFT, if anybody remembers, the Long Island Forum for Technology, was the affiliate until we competed at Stony Brook and received the designation in 2014. So I guess sometime soon we will be recompeting for that. But the advantage, as Lisa said, is that if we don't have the expertise, one of the other 9 regions has it, or the state folks have it. The state folks run a competition every year called Fuse Hub for, I think it's $50,000 awards for companies that are trying to commercialize a new idea, basically, that they need proof of concept or they need manufacturability. It works on the bench top. How do you make it work in a manufacturing environment? All of that kind of stuff. So it is a really terrific program. It has a tremendous number of success stories and ways that we could get your state government through this region, and your friendly local research university are going to help your company succeed.
But you're right, it's the best kept secret,
Absolutely.
fortunately.
And so we try to stay in touch with as many of our businesses, and obviously we do. We send them pilot bills, we talk to them about job creation, but it's nice to do things where,
we're not asking you for something, we're
right,
giving
we're
you
offering
something.
So,
Right, give them a hell of a resource.
Sounds like a great idea.
yes. And, as we started talking about this, we started to think about other, like, oh, we could do this in the spring too, and invite these organizations. So we're gonna see how this one goes, and it's also an opportunity for one of us, Fred, to go in front of the group and just say, hey, we know that you know who we are because you had a project through us, but if you're thinking about doing another project, don't forget to call. If we can help you with something, don't forget to call. So just to kind of remind them that we're here and that we're available to them.
Did you talk to Amy about also inviting the incubator companies to come so that they can hear Fred's message?
No, but that's not a bad idea. We can certainly.
Do we have
do
a
that.
date yet?
Yeah, yes, October 24th, 8:30 to 10:30. So Amy's been working, so just not to cause confusion, but our Amy is working very hard on this along with the woman who runs the LIMEP, whose name is also Amy. So the Amy's have been working very hard on this.
What a great team.
Yeah,
What are you calling this?
I'm sorry.
What are you calling this?
We're gonna call it a CEO breakfast.
Mhm.
And we're gonna have the keynote be, the Stony Brook organization. With Amy Erickson.
Yes, you
Yeah.
got it.
You're good.
Where are you holding it?
ADR, Home to Suite. Yeah.
Oh, at AVR.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna do it at the
Project.
Hostess
There
Suite
we go.
Hotel.
Close to home.
Yeah, well, it's
It's a nice
essential.
place, oh, yeah.
Stony Brook did offer their location, but we felt at 8:30 in the morning, Nichols Road would be rough.
Would be,
for
yeah,
everybody
This
to
is.
get to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're gonna have it.
Except of us, for those of us who go the back way.
You can't go the back way, you can't go the back way.
I can still go the back, I can go through the campus.
Well,
All right,
not
but
that you can.
you gotta stay out of Stony Brook.
Part of that road.
No, where I live,
Oh, you
I can
can't
get through the, she knows where I live.
Yeah.
I can get through the campus.
Yesterday was
Well.
move-in day.
Yeah.
Stony Brook Road traffic was at a standstill.
They're still pumping out the dorms.
Yeah, that was part of it.
The grist mill,
Oh,
What a
yeah.
shame.
Yeah, what
that was Pelly's family's home that was sitting next to her, Dr. Damiano's.
Oh, my goodness.
By the grist mill, that was his father's practice was out of that house.
Oh.
They save it?
I don't know, but they sold it a long time ago, but
Yeah.
it's his family house that he grew up in. He's like,
And
sad
the
old.
grist mill's supposed to be structurally okay.
Okay.
Yes, but it's gonna take a long time to rebuild. I mean, you got the the DEC, the EPA, probably, quite some time.
I was amazed. Both of us were amazed at the sight of some of the fish in that pond.
Yeah, did you see that? Yeah.
And
Good?
Port Chef Village took a
Big hit,
beating,
a
and
big hit.
one of our projects got,
Did you guys see that?
Again,
I felt bad for him. It was posted all over Facebook. Everyone was throwing it all over the place.
that's the second time.
yeah.
Oh, that project got hit? Really?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And
How could you fix it?
couch is
You,
floating.
you can't fix it. All the rain comes like a bolt.
Imagine what it was like coming down that hill.
Oh, my God.
Mm.
What project was that?
The one next with Cappy's Carpets, next to the CVS, Guido.
Is it Brooks Park?
Did you see the pit? Did you see what it looked like? I was gonna cry. I mean, I'm like, holy smokes, look how nice that place was.
Okay, so we are, going to do that, sorry, I realized I got sidetracked with that. We're gonna do that breakfast event,
Okay.
put it on your calendars, hope everybody can attend, and once we get the, invite, obviously we'll send it to you guys, and if there's somebody you think would benefit from it, please share it. We're gonna focus on our relationships and our companies, but that's not to say that it's not, we'd be happy to have people participate. So sorry, two more items on the agenda. The CDC, I'm sorry. They changed their name. Now they're CDLI. They are doing their annual luncheon on 10/10 at the Crest Hollow. It's from noon to 2:30. We receive a sponsorship opportunity. Unfortunately, a number of us will be
Yes.
in Montauk. So, we won't be able to attend, but I still wanted to put it out there, see if, anybody, if you guys want to do a sponsorship and if anybody wants tickets. Last year, we did a $2,500 sponsorship and bought one ticket for $250. This year, there's the option for a $3,000 sponsorship, which includes 3 tickets, or $1,000 sponsorship, which is a full page ad, or a $500 sponsorship, which is a half page ad. There were, we could go higher, but I figured since we probably weren't taking that many tickets, it didn't make sense. And obviously, if we do one of the ad options, we can buy tickets if anybody, wants to.
I'd like to go.
Okay.
We have
Carry the flag.
sponsored this for the last probably half dozen years
Yeah.
at least. And even though a number of us can't go, I think we ought to continue with that sponsorship. We've got 2 projects included with them. Third one about to be,
In the hopper.
and I think
Yeah,
we should.
I think we should, I agree.
Same here. Anne-Marie will
I'll carry the
represent
flag.
us well.
At 3,000?
Yeah, that's
All right.
fine. Yeah.
Okay, and that includes the tickets.
That includes the ticket.
Great.
Motion to that effect?
Actually, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Motion to that effect?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you,
Um,
Bob.
Question of abstentions here, the 3 of us.
Mm.
Well, we have 4 that can vote.
So, well,
Yeah,
I
I just,
vote. I'm not on the. Well, that doesn't.
yeah, I know, we're
That
not,
doesn't
I
matter.
mean, really, the only one that should abstain is Anne Marie.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Which I will do.
all right.
All right, with a motion and a second on the floor, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, with Anne Marie abstain.
Yeah.
Abstain.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so, and that comes with 3 tickets, so I hear Anne Marie wants one, anybody else
I'm
interested
out of town.
in a ticket.
but not a bunch of.
So we can,
If nobody else can make it, I'll
was.
get that to my colleagues.
and we can tell them that, we're donating the tickets back to them,
Mhm,
or
yeah,
I can
whatever,
see
yeah.
if maybe
Bring some
maybe somebody in housing is
Some
interested
friends.
in it, I'll offer them upstairs.
People who want to know,
Yeah,
what the idea is about.
exactly. Yeah.
And CDLI.
Okay, and then
And the CDLI, the new name, is a result of, reviewing and reconfiguring the logo.
There you go.
So,
There you
yeah.
go. Everyone's talking about the same thing these days.
That's was a big part of it.
and we can reach out, and I know, I think. we
During
have
COVID, it made us very unpopular.
So,
Yes.
although it's not on the agenda, I have one other item. We received last night, I think, a request from PFK O'Connor Davies, that's our auditing firm. They do an annual Long Island Economic Survey. They've been doing this since 1995, and they are looking for sponsors for the survey. They do it in partnership with the Siena College Research Institute. It's $2,900 for the 2024 sponsorship, and there's a series of our logo, whatever it might be, would be on a whole bunch of things, and they do an event on January 23rd at Crest Hollow theme. And there's 10 tickets to that event. So I kind of throw it out if this is something that you guys think we should do.
I would say that both Lisa, Lori, all of us feel it's a very odd request coming from the people that audit our books.
I was just gonna say, that
Thank
could be a
For that
compliment.
reason,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think we should decline.
Yep,
Great.
yep.
Great.
Thanks for the offer.
It does go back to 95 when AVZ.
Right,
used to do this.
AVZ.
Yeah, before PKF acquired them.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no other business.
No,
I
don't.
Good.
don't even know.
But don't worry about it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to. I'm good with that.
There's no further business.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Aye.
much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.